Yes, ma'am. I'd like to speak with someone about a complaint of police misconduct. Yes, I'm calling to report a complaint against Deputy Walters and Deputy Mahoney. Can I speak to someone who can help me with that?
Yeah, 1 second, sir. Switch over to the watch commander.
Thank you.
Watch commander, is that Hershey?
Yes, sir. I'm calling to report a complaint against a Deputy Walters and a Deputy Marquez.
And who are you?
My name is
the guy that made the complaint, or?
Pardon me?
Are you the guy that made the complaint? You already made the complaint? What are you talking about?
Well, let me just back up. Tell me how I can file a complaint against those two officers. How do I do that?
No, if your mind's made up that's what you want to do, then you have forms. You can come to the counter and just fill out the form in or mail it in. You can do it on the phone. I prefer, because it takes a lot of paperwork on my part and hours, I would rather try to see what the complaint is, see how I can resolve it. Walters is on PMs. I don't ever deal with her. I don't know what the other name was you said, but probably on PMs if she...
Yeah, it's Marquez and Walters, and I'll just cut through it, and I'll tell you what I'd like to do, and if you can work it out, fine. But I know that I'm actually not the complaining party. I'm calling on her behalf. She's a little intimidated and wanted someone to speak for her, and I will tell her what the process is after you inform me. But I can tell you, I have her complaint form in front of me. My name is Mr. Kamal. I'm with policeabuse.com. I'm actually a retired detective, and I'm helping her with this complaint. And I took
Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. No, but that's okay. She's doing me a favor. Okay, I'm sorry, back.
That's all right.
Back.
In any event, I'm trying to help her with the complaint. She's given me some information about a traffic stop that led to what I felt is both excessive force and unprofessional conduct. There were racial slurs being made, really inappropriate behavior, and apparently she said, I think she called the station and said no one called her back or would talk to her. So I wanted to make sure that the complaint was taken seriously and that if it was reported, it would be acted on.
If someone says, I want to, it's like what I asked you, okay? I had a guy yesterday, he came in. He got a ticket, he didn't like, okay, I'm not going to take a complaint on the ticket, that's what the court's about. You know, you don't think you did exhibition speed or you have a reason why you did it because of the pain. You are going to judge on that. You know, I understand you're saying the word complain or you didn't like it, I get it. But that argument is the court one.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Rude, but if the deputy is rude to you, I take a complaint over the rude, and then I try to resolve it. Look, I can talk to him, I can bring him in if you guys want to sit down or something, I can go back and forth. But if you insist on taking like a written document, then go ahead and do it, and and it just takes me a lot of time, and basically the same thing happens.
I understand, but let me just tell you what he did. He repeatedly called her a bitch in front of her young nieces and nephews. Or young nieces. It was 4 young girls.
No, that's bad language, and maybe we'll get a write-up for that.
Well, that's what she's accusing him of, and the young children support it. They said that they saw it, they heard it, and that he did it repeatedly, and he did a number of other things that appeared to me to be intended with no other purpose than humiliation. And I understand the differences between how complaints are received and under what circumstances, and if someone says, I didn't rob a bank, you can't resolve that. I investigate bank robberies. I did it when I was a cop working under the LA County Sheriff's Red Team, so I know what you're talking about. But what I'm telling you is listed here. No, this is not a Rodney King encounter, but for that young girl to be called a bitch repeatedly and for no good reason, and then one of them was squeezing her hands just to cause pain and getting off on it, that's not allowable. During a traffic stop, she wasn't arrested. She hadn't committed any crime. The most serious crime she had was a cracked windshield. And that kind of behavior for this traffic stop was way over the line. So I don't know who she talked to when she called down there. My dad worked for LA County Sheriff for 30 years, so I'm familiar with the process in the agency. And I work for the agency. But what these deputies did, these girls were basically terrorized on the side of the road on their way home from Magic Mountain. They hadn't robbed a bank. They weren't lowriders trying to case a joint. They were just going home, and they were humiliated and insulted and subjected to excessive force. And I'm going to make sure that it's taken seriously. So here's what I want to say to you, sir. I will tell them to contact you or someone at the front desk, but I'm watching the situation, and if they have any problems, then I will advise them accordingly. Right now, I think you've been professional, informative. You tried to tell me what the process is, but I know these deputies are not allowed to do what they do because I'm a cop. So I'm going to make sure that someone who did this is going to have to answer for it. The young woman will be ready to come forward when she's notified by an IA, and I'm telling you right now, it is going to go down on paper.
Well, the best way to do it, probably. How old are they?
She's just a moment. I'm going to pull her. I'll pull her age up right now. Just a minute.
But she's more than 18, right?
She's 24 years old. But there were minors who were there who will have their own complaints because they experienced the abuse because this was their aunt who was being humiliated.
Okay. Well, those are witnesses. I mean,
yeah.
You only need one complaint, and they should take everybody that's involved. You should interview everybody.
Okay, perfect.
So, but
is there a number that I should have her call, or should she just come down there?
What she should do is call the same number, 255-1121. Ask to speak to the watch commander. The most appropriate one to talk to, she can do it any shift. We're open 24 hours. If they really want to do a complaint, I'll talk to somebody, I need to do a complaint. And they might do what I did, like, well, can I resolve it a different way? And she'd say, no, I really need it written. I'll do that. I want to cooperate. I've been advised by, you or some friends of mine or whatever she wants to say, and they'll take it. It's probably best to do it on the shift it happened.
Okay.
But she could do it on any shift. She can call in. I can fill out the form. The only thing is the form I have has like 3 lines. So I write down, she'll tell me a half-hour story or, 10-minute story. But I got 3 lines. So and she'll get interviewed later, but for the intake one, I only have 3 lines. So if she wants to write something down, like her statement, type it, take her time and word perfect it, or just handwrite it, doesn't matter. I prefer that because then I already have her statement. And then I can just write, see attached, complaint this deputy was rude, he's standing too far,
gotcha.
Long attention, whatever she writes. I can write like real easy synopsis stuff instead of trying to blend it in. And then sometimes they look at it and say, hey, you left out all this stuff. I got 3 lines.
Got it.
And then and then that's just filling out the form, and then it comes back to whoever the watch commander was for that shift, and then they start their stuff.
Okay, perfect.
You can do it really on any shift, but if it happened on PMs, well, our PM starts at it starts officially at 9:30. Between 9 and 9:30 they do relief. So before or after 9:30, it would be, before would be not PM shift, and after would be the graveyard shift people. Walters works PMs normally, but I think it's an overlap.
Well, she said this happened at around 8:30 p.m. on the 7th of this month. Okay,
then that would be, the 7th was, what is today? Oh, that's last week. Should have been Lieutenant Weiss. He works PMs. He works today. Our days off don't rotate. So he's the one who would get assigned that. But sometimes it's best to talk to him first. But either way, the intake thing is easy. And then it'll get reassigned. And whoever worked the 7th would probably be Lieutenant Weiss. Okay. And he would do the whole thing where he's going to have to call her. But for me personally, I like when they do the written statement because it's usually real clear and they think it out. They don't scratch out.
Well, she actually gave me a written statement, so I will give that back to her and tell her to take that with her, and we'll go from there. Let me ask you a question. Does your office have a fax number or an email address if she wants to send something to the commander of the station?
It would go to the captain, but that just cycles down right back to one of us. But that's not the best way to do it. Well, I want
to make the commander aware. A lot of times, supervisors and police chiefs, because I train them, don't know what's going on, and I want the commander to know what this officer, what this deputy did, so that even if he's found guilty, if he does it again, there won't be any excuses. I think he did it. And I want to make sure it gets to the top in that division. So who is the commander, and does he have a fax number or a publicly accessible email address that I can send him something?
I don't think he has those 2 things, but you can write a letter to the station and get to him. However, whenever we get these complaints,
Mm-hmm.
I put it in the operations tray.
Mm-hmm.
The operations does operations lieutenant, then it gets processed by the captain.
Okay.
A letter comes from the captain's office to the person saying so-and-so's been assigned this complaint.
Okay.
Be here informed shortly.
Okay.
So let's say she did the complaint right now, today.
Mm-hmm.
That letter will probably, absent the weekend, would come in about 2 or 3 days.
Gotcha.
She gets Lieutenant Hershey, Lieutenant Weiss, somebody's handling this case.
Mm-hmm.
Expect a call in the near future.
Okay.
So within a few days or in a week. So she'll get that letter saying it's being assigned and it's signed by the captain.
Okay.
I don't know if he reads that, but he's aware of all of them.
Okay.
And then when it's all done and we type our stuff in, we have to do the same process. We type our memo in, we put all our little copies of tags or reports or whatever.
Okay. Well, do me a favor, sir. I want the name of the commander, and I want his address, and I want to send. Okay.
Captain Paul Decker.
Deckard or Eckert?
Becker. Boy, Edward, Charlie.
Beckard. Got it. And the address?
Is let me look at my card, make sure I got it right. Well, I'll just read it. 23740 Magic Mountain Parkway.
Okay. And the zip code?
Santa Clarita 91355.
91355. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your help, and I will tell her what to do next.
Okay.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye.